Hello and welcome to another exciting episode of the Comic Book Chronicles. I am your host, Roddykat. You can find me at Roddykat on Twitter. You can find me at News Nerds Need on Twitter. You can find me, well, excuse me, for the time being, you can find me at those places on Twitter and CB Caps on Instagram.
South Carolina with Columbia down the way.
And the sound effects you've heard come from none other than our man in Brooklyn, Agent_ on Twitter and Instagram.
Agent_70 on Twitter, at least for now, and Instagram. What's up, everybody? Co-hosting from the Borough of Kings.
Hello, Brooklyn!
Indeed. And you can find this here podcast on the Coastal of the Podcast Network, that's CSPN.us.
Do it today.
And you could also find us on your podcast personal place of choice, whether it be Google Play, Apple iTunes, aka Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and the Coastal of the Podcast Network's SoundCloud page.
Please make sure to hit like and subscribe and to leave all the best 5-star reviews. Thank you.
Indeed. You can also find us recording every Thursday night, most Thursday nights, 9:30-ish p.m. Eastern Standard Time on the YouTube channel of The Kliq Nation. That's youtube.com/The Kliq Nation. That's TheKliqNation, and twitch.tv/Comic Book Chronicles.
Again, like, subscribe, hit the notification button so that you know when we're on, and leave us all the great reviews. Please.
Yeah, and shout out to the folks that are watching and are looking live. What's up, Benji Games 2? Good to see you. And anybody else who may be lurking around on YouTube or Twitch. So, indeed.
Thanks for joining.
Yeah, you know what? You just reminded me. I need to. Did you watch that the Halloween?
No.
Simpsons thing? Yeah.
No, I haven't seen anything Simpsons in a while.
Yeah, no, same here. I
also won't get the reference because I really have not watched Death Note. I've only watched like a small chunk of it, and then I put it down and never went back to it. Like I'm talking about like many moons ago, like only 13, 14 years ago.
Right. I suspect it's probably they probably only did just enough to be like, hey, guess what? You know what this is. You know, like what whatever that was in the trailer is probably the most of it. I don't know. Well, but then again, I don't know. Who's to say? I haven't seen it yet, so I couldn't tell you.
Yeah, since neither of us have watched it, we can't really attest to it. So
plus it's been weeks since Halloween, so it doesn't really matter either way. But folks, we got another holiday upon us, which I guess we're gonna have some. We'll have some news. Well, no, we'll go ahead and say that right now. But there's some news that would have triggered us saying something about it. Next week is Thanksgiving here in the U.S., and we will not be recording live on Thursday night because of that.
Right. So we will be in touch. Please, if Twitter is still around, check our Twitter accounts. If not, double check against our Instagram accounts and see when our next show will be live on YouTube and look and be on the lookout for an audio recording coming out probably early the following week, or maybe as early as the weekend. So, but thanks for tuning in and thanks for listening and watching.
And with that out of the way, we can go ahead and get into the first bit of the show, which is as we have been doing the last month or so, spoiler light / free recap of Andor, Star Wars Andor, and this is the penultimate episode titled "Daughters of Ferrix."
Right. So this is the penultimate episode of what we now know is the first season of Andor. So I am going to ring the spoiler bell just for anyone that wants to avoid anything that might even resemble a spoiler. So here we go. Light mild spoilers for Andor season 1, episode 11 in 3, 2, 1. Incoming.
And what was indeed incoming from this episode was a few somber moments, a couple of somber moments.
Yeah, more than a few. More
Yeah.
than a few, because we literally take up right where we left off at the end of the last episode, where we, and as I said, the spoilers that are here, basically involve not just episode 11, but also, most of the series so far to this point. And if you don't know that Andor has found himself on the run again as a fugitive after having broken out of prison, then that's a spoiler for you. But that's where we are at the beginning of this episode, and there is some hijinks to be had while he's trying to escape the planet on which the prison was located.
Yes. As we were talking before the show, there seems to be some potential corporate synergy going on with what happened with I want to call him Anakin, Cassian, and Melshi, who we know to have escaped from the prison last episode, but we don't know the whereabouts of anybody else, including Andy Serkis's character, who's probably still on the thing. Unless he found a ship.
Well, we don't know. My understanding is that he was pushed off, but it was incomplete. If I recall, if I look back at it again, I don't remember watching it twice. I don't recall him staying on. I think he might have gotten pushed off as part of the human wave of people that was coming off trying to escape.
I mean, that's possible, but we know Andor definitely got pushed off. We know Cassian definitely got pushed off, but now, as far as I remember, he was still on there. When it cut away and everybody was swimming. So yeah, I mean, very well could have happened. Which, man, that's a bad way to go.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, I think it's implied, but at the end of the day, no body doesn't mean means a lot when it comes to this type of storytelling.
Right.
So, but at the end of the day, what we know is Cassian Andor does make his way off this planet by playing to some sympathetic ears. Yeah. And characters who don't initially act sympathetically to former prisoners of the Empire but end up doing so. And Andor, in one of the weirder plot points, ends up making his way to a stash of personal items that I was very surprised were still there.
I was too, and I was actually surprised, outside of remembering that was there. I was like, why would you go back there? That's how you got into this predicament in the first place. But then I forgot about that stash he had. So
I
was like, oh right. But at the same time, why were you there so long? Because it'd have been like, get up, you still had that. Well, I guess.
Was it a hotel room, or I'm assuming it was an apartment, because there's no way that would still be there if it was a hotel room. It would have been cleaned out. So
I've seen one video say it was a hotel room. I am also presuming it's an apartment, but if that's the case, and somebody, those people that were in there took their place over relatively quick. Now, granted, he's been in there for a while, so I mean, it's not, he's been in the prison for so long.
He's been locked up for a while. That's a little bit longer than a regular vacation stay. But then this is Star Wars, so we don't know how long a regular vacation stay is. So I assumed it was an apartment.
Right.
But ultimately, we get from that point, and we find out what else has been happening on Ferrix, and there's some sad news to report on the Ferrix front. I have a lot of sympathy for, and it's funny that the new droid's name is B2 Emo, like literally emo.
That's kind of what I dislike, because it was like, okay, that's a little on the nose, because you know, yeah. But yeah, it is what it is. So yeah, we also kind of get the an update on a few other characters, including, man, Bix looks in bad shape.
Yeah.
Yeah, she talk about working somebody over without actually touching them. They did a number on her. So, which we also got some news on that. Now that I think about it, which I probably should get out of the way now, but we'll finish the discussion first. Outside of that, yeah, we get some updates from a few other characters. Some folks on the folks on Coruscant. We even get a returning character from one of the first couple of episodes, and I guess in a not surprising turn, another go around with Saw Gerrera.
Yes.
So
yes.
And another scene with Stellan Skarsgård and Forrest Whitaker just gnawing on the scene.
Seriously, I'm always happy to see Forrest Whitaker as he continues to enjoy his role in Star Wars.
Lies! Deceptions!
Very happy to see him get some more play as Saw Gerrera.
Right. And also, I'm just going to go ahead and say it here again. Hashtag Steela deserves better. That's never not.
She did.
Never not going to.
You know what? There's also a starfighter fight.
Oh, that was
in this.
Yes.
Which is really, really well done. Yes. It's something where it's not what we expect in anything Andor related. It's not. Right. But it was a very nice addition. It was kind of I read a couple of headlines where it was kind of like a bone that they threw to, Star Wars fans. Like, hey, here's a starfighter fight.
Like, here's some Star Wars for you, just to kind of check the mock that box off. And yeah, I've seen that also. Which, you know what? Hey, I ain't mad at it. It kind of made me want.
I really liked it.
Yeah.
Like, it was
it was great.
It was really well done. There's a particular maneuver there. One was the anti-tractor beam maneuver, and two was the anti-aircraft maneuver, where it was almost like, oh, so someone was paying attention to Darth Maul here.
Yeah, basically. Basically, I'm like, hey, who knew dude had those kind of skills? But that, which actually, like I was about to say, made me want to look up, which I've been meaning to do, look up the model of his ship, because I know they call it like a hauler or something like that, but obviously it's been modified, and that was noticed episodes ago. But I'm like, wait, what is this like actually originally? Because it felt like something that was imperial in nature, but I'm not entirely sure. Like, because obviously, it's after the time of the Clone Wars and whatnot, so and stuff kind of got moved around and ended up being used for other places. So it's not outside the realm of possibilities that he could have. And Luthen's a collector, so it's not outside the realm of possibility he couldn't have gotten his hands on some imperial tech.
Or Republic? You mean Republic tech?
Republic tech. Excuse me. Yes. So, but nevertheless, that was a great part, and outside of the whole other somber parts of the show that we got, still a great show. That's the bottom line.
Listen, at the end of the day, my understanding is that Tony Gilroy wrote this episode and probably wrote the final episode, so he is tying together all the storylines that he can at this point in order to set up season 2. So this season of Andor has to be one of the more tightly plotted Disney Plus offerings, ever. I'm talking about across all of the different IP property, the intellectual properties that are on Disney Plus streaming right now. I think Andor is probably the most tightly scripted of all of them.
I'd agree with that.
I have to give Tony Gilroy a lot of credit for that.
And I'm sure, and I'm sure this is gonna continue to do big things for him. This is going forward. I'm fairly certain.
I think I agree.
Yeah. So, that being said, I'm not sure what else to say about this without going into anything spoilerish. So,
No, I think that's it. I think that's it. You know, at the end of the day, like you said, the last episode is next week, the day before Thanksgiving. So you won't have us to listen to. You won't have to listen to us give spoiler light. It'll probably be a little bit more spoiler filled by the time you listen to us talk about the season finale of Andor next week.
Yeah, possibly. Depending on when we do it. That's
exactly. Because if we come and record on Friday, it will probably be still on the lighter side in terms of spoilers. But if we record on Saturday, we'll probably be, looking at the season as a whole and, where our characters find themselves at the end of one season of Andor.
Yeah. So, I guess, well, we'll get to that later. I was about to say, speaking of spoilering things, yeah, the statute of limitations is pretty much up for Black Panther Wakanda Forever. So just a case.
What do you mean?
Well, I mean, usually a week out, look, people were like, "All right, we can go ahead and spoil a lot." I mean, I'm not saying we will.
Well, I guess we were trying to observe more than that for Endgame. I think Endgame, because of some of the things that happened, I think we tried to observe 2 weeks.
Yeah. For that, but normally we've kind of stuck to about a week for stuff. I'm not saying that there's anything. There's probably some news that might get into that that's probably going to get into that territory tonight, but nothing. Just in case if anything does happen to get, you'll know that that is the rule we have observed. Just in case you're new to the show. So that being said, but all right, now we could go ahead and get into the books of the week.
All righty, let me pull up a transition.
Meanwhile, at the Hall of Justice.
And we are going to start off with a big book of the week, actually.
Yes.
Iron Man number 25, aka Legacy number 650.
650, yes. Thank you for adding that. So Iron Man number 25, also known as number 650 in the legacy numbering, is written by Christopher Cantwell, with art by Angel Unzueta, colors are by Frank D'Armata, and letters are by VC's Joe Caramagna. Specifically, I am speaking of the main story in the book. There are a few backup stories involved as well. I don't have the credits here on my sheet. Do you have them on yours?
Yes.
Okay, allow me a moment. So the backup stories, the first one is written by Muriwa Ayodele with art by Sun Akande. The third one is written by Kurt Busiek and has art by Benjamin Dewey. The fourth one is a really short introduction to the upcoming run by Jerry Duggan, is of course written by Jerry Duggan, with art by Juan Frigeri. Colors are by Brian Valenza, and apparently our favorite lettering paisan, VC's Joe Caramagna, lettered everything. So I will say I'll start off with the main story. The main story is basically a nice little bow on the end of Cantwell's run. He basically observes that Iron Man doesn't necessarily see himself as being the most popular character, yet finds himself being honored with a particular day in New York City. And we kind of get a little bit of closure is not the right word. I want to say an update, basically, on the status of all of the characters and all of the plot points that have run through the 25 issues of Cantwell's Iron Man run. Everyone from Patsy Walker to the recent was it
Source Control.
Source Control, thank you. I wanted to say Source Forge, but I think that's an actual software company.
Yes.
Source Control.
Yeah.
Right. Source Control, it was kind of a version of Cantwell's, it was Cantwell's version of Armor Wars, that really brought up some old characters as well as some old weapons that Iron Man had not encountered in quite a while. And it was much more of a down to earth, as it were, story. And I was very surprised to see that the Iron Man armor lacked some capabilities that I thought it already had naturally.
And usually they will have, even if it didn't, they would have ginned it up for the story. People classically would have ginned it up for the story anyway. Like, oh no, this has got this. We just didn't, you just didn't know about it.
Right. So I was surprised. I was just like, oh, I mean, so, he says that it has basic technology for this particular, use,
which makes sense.
But I really thought there would be something more advanced.
Right. Because I recall him when he had the Mark II, the power pad that he used to take off to his sides, you could just pretty much use for pretty much anything, and probably including that. So,
right.
But yeah, it was a interesting use, and it was actually kind of a basic story. Like, yeah, the whole Iron Man Day thing aside, it was just like, no, it's just kind of him monologuing through the whole thing, but also while going through the day and getting into stuff, or getting into a situation, which I guess it doesn't really matter what was behind it, but, or I guess it's irrelevant of what was behind it, and that it kind of, he came across it and it dealt with it, and kind of went on about his business because of what happened from it. But that's pretty much the long and short of that part. So because I was kept thinking to myself as he was going through that whole thing, I was like, okay, there's something else to this. There's got to be something else to this. But at the same time, it's like, I don't know if you want to just introduce something for his last story just like that. But stranger things have happened,
Right.
So,
right. I got a kick out of noticing one thing. I was like, wait, there is no ER in New York City that empty. That Iron Man is able to sit in the waiting area by himself.
Right.
I'm sorry.
Right. Well, hey, everybody was out for Iron Man Day, so
not I was about to say it doesn't matter.
I know.
Doesn't matter.
I know. Believe me, I recognize that. So, but it was just like, okay, yeah. There was no way you're just gonna wave that off like that easily. So you just kind of gotta go with it at that point. But I know that dude was like, well, this is strangely empty for any ER, much less where he is. So, but yeah, I did like the end of it though, with kind of him ended up back at the mansion and what happens there. Also, it was kind of amusing, and I kind of got taken aback. He evokes a certain name as he was dealing with that situation he was dealing with. I'm like, wait, so you got this name as a passcode for bypassing things? Like really? So I don't know. That was just something I kind of bumped on real quick, but yeah, it was a good story. That being said, but going on to the backup stuff. So the second and the third stories, the backup stories are pretty much steeped in stories of old, let's say. One actually is coming from, which was the third story, is coming from coming off of I guess it's kind of a retelling of Tales of Suspense, number 26 or something, 126.
Right.
And the second one, which apparently is going to end up having a book next year, according to the footnote they had there, is also something steeped in Tony's past. So I'm curious as to where that's going to go. But that one is also coming off of what was that, 2010? The 2010 Iron Man book, I believe.
Right. It's been a while.
and having to do with him being in a place and dealing with another Avenger, who I guess, according to that story, kind of had similar issues at that time. And now that I think about it, I forgot while I was reading. I was like, "Oh, right, this takes place after Original Sin." Sometime after Original Sin. I'm like, "Oh, boo! Why we keep going back?"
Right. That's how long. I was about to say that's how long ago Original Sin is, or what?
Right. So I was like, "Oh man, I have tried to forget that," with the exception of the fact that Silk came out of that.
Well, Silk,
Jane Foster, also
Jane
Thor,
Foster,
yeah,
Thor.
Jane Foster Thor also. You're right. But outside of that, I was like, okay, that whole event was just
Yeah.
But so that's
I could deal without stories that don't revolve around the orb.
Exactly.
But in any event, the last story, is only just a page long, if I recall. Teases what's to come, and I immediately thought of Roddykat when I read it
because
it's more right because it's more of what we've been dealing with in the Marvel universe proper, in Marvel publishing recently. It's basically what happened in the pages of the newly relaunched Amazing Spider-Man, which has just recently happened in the newly relaunched pages of the Fantastic Four, and now is about to happen in the pages of the newly relaunched Invincible Iron Man. That being, something crazy just happened to the main characters, and it happened off page, off screen, and we are led to believe that everyone has turned against the main character. And we will see how long it takes for the creative team to reveal what exactly happened and why everyone is labeling the main character or the main protagonist, basically, just being short of a villain.
Right. But we also, it seems like there's a specific group, if that one character is who I'm thinking it is, which is kind of curious as to what's going to put Tony up against them, or them against Tony, I should say, I guess, if that is who I think it is. And of course, there's another redhead, but but there is that. So yes, I'm curious. It was good to see there was a shot of the Silver Centurion armor in one of those panels. I'm like, what's gonna go on there? And also apparently it's going to deal with the more of Tony's past, like the first backup story is apparently going to dive into. Also, I forgot to mention from the main story, I don't know if you noticed that character that was talking to Patsy.
Of course.
I was like, we haven't seen that dude in I don't know how long. Like, that was a pull. But then again, I guess dealing with what she was dealing with, and from that Iron Man annual, or Iron Man and like Hellcat annual, I guess it kind of makes sense. But
didn't that character appear there?
I don't believe so. If it did, I don't remember.
I can't remember.
But yeah, this is a 90s character that I know I haven't seen in a good while. So this was pretty much another pull. I was like, I wasn't expecting that at all. So that was pretty funny.
All right. We do not have long to wait for the new Invincible Iron Man #1. It is due out next month.
Also, as Bridget said, the cover looks good. Yes, it does. I think that's wait, is that Alex Ross's cover? Yeah,
that's definitely Ross.
Mm-hmm. So yeah, that's a good looking cover. I didn't pull some of the other ones, but that one was particularly of note.
Yeah, the main one is Ross.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's Iron Man 25, aka 650. I know the new book starts next month, I believe.
Mm-hmm.
So we don't have long to wait for Jerry Duggan and crew's take on the Armored Avenger.
Yeah, just said it. Yep. So it is coming hot on the heels of this last issue. We will not have long to wait. I just think, what's funny? Mm-hmm. You made me flip back to the cover. It still takes me a while to digest the fact that Iron Man is now depicted because of the movies as using his palm repulsors as being like part of his flight system.
Mhm.
And it takes me back to, and this is light spoilers for Wakanda Forever, where apparently Riri has solved that need because she ain't flying with those. She has other ways of stabilizing her flight.
Indeed, you know, as a good mech should and would, some would say. If you follow mecha anime. But yes, definitely. That being said, though, we can push on to the next book. I guess if we can stay on the Cantwell train if we want to. Or hit the X book.
Do you want to stay on the Cantwell
I
train?
mean, there's really not much to say about it, but you know, we can.
All right. So we will talk about Gold Goblin. Well, actually, you know what? We had two choices, but I don't think any of us read the other one. Either of us read the other one. There's another Cantwell book out.
That Star Wars, the Star Trek book.
No, the Namor book.
Oh, that's right. Oh, no, you're right. We didn't. I totally forgot about that. No, neither one of us read that.
Right, and neither one of us read. You know, we're a little bit behind on some of the limited series that have come out. What we are referring to is Namor the Submariner Conquered Shores, and the second issue of that series came out this week. So we still have some time to catch up on that and read up on that. But what Roddykat was referring to is number one issue that came out this week. It's the first issue of 5. It is Gold Goblin #1. It's written by Christopher Cantwell with art by Lan Medina, colors by Antonio Fabella, and letters by VC's Joe Sabino. So if you are not keeping up with Amazing Spider-Man, the current run on Amazing Spider-Man, you'll no doubt be flummoxed, confused by the appearance of a character being dubbed or anointed as the Gold Goblin. But if you have been keeping up with the current Amazing Spider-Man run being written by Zeb Wells, then you know that Norman Osborn has essentially found his way into a new costumed, possibly heroic identity. That still remains to be seen because of what happens in this issue. But this is, at least on its surface, a new, it seems like Norman has reformed and turned over a new leaf due to storylines outside, prior to Zeb Wells during the was it not the Spencer run, but the was it the Spencer run?
I think it was
the tail end of it.
I think it was the Spencer run. Yeah.
Yeah, the tail end of the Spencer run, before all that the craziness with Ben Reilly.
Yeah. Yeah, it is also. Well, I guess it's worth noting, but while during that run, Norman Osborn's sins had been eaten, he still have some demons resting on him, let's say. And I guess some of that may or may not have had something to do with Judgment Day. That part still is really unclear. I mean, we know that that's where that manifested.
Right. He's wondering if he had a hallucination or not,
right.
And it turns out that he's just not comprehending that was part of Judgment Day.
Right, but at the end of that Spidey Judgment Day book, we saw shades of something still being in play based off of that. So, and we're not clear.
Right. Basically, him being judged off screen or off page,
right,
or off panel. He's basically being judged off panel.
Or at the very least, yeah, kind of hinting towards that, and or going into this. Let's put it that way. So yeah, so he's definitely still have an event that he took part in center stage that is still haunting him to this going into this. So he's still not well, despite his sins being taken from him. But I guess, just because sins have been taken from you doesn't mean your mental state is going to just automatically correct. So,
Right.
So we will see what happens during the course of this here limited series with that. He apparently can't get away from gliders, even though there was some monologue about that in the course of this issue. So, once a goblin, always a goblin, whatever your shade of color. And apparently we got a not necessarily a resurgence, because I know we've probably seen this character fairly recently. I just don't remember where. But there's another goblin there's another goblin adjacent villain that shows up here.
Yep.
That Norman deals with in a particular fashion. So
Yep.
basically, change your passwords, folks. Change your passwords. Don't use the default password for things. Maybe go ahead and enter and change the default passwords on your devices that you use.
Right. I mean, if you insist on using the admin username, please change the password.
Exactly. Or else it could very well bite you in the butt, just like it did this character.
Pretty much.
Yeah, but yeah, this is also seemingly because the trade dress is on here, or at least the labeling is on here as being a dark web tie-in, or at least it's going to go into, according to the
it's kind of a precursor.
Right.
Definitely. What's happening in the Spider books right now is a precursor to that dark web stuff.
So yeah, so this limited series isn't going to not be exuded from that. So whatever that thing may be, we'll ride it out.
Mm-hmm. We'll see. We will see.
So yeah, that's pretty much it on Gold Goblin. There's really, like I said, not terribly too much to say about that one. I'm whatever this thing is going with Norman, I suspect, I don't know how much longer it's going to take, and whether he's going to go back into old habits regardless of what happened previously.
Right.
All right. Anyway,
so
What's next?
No, pick a book. Any book.
Do you want to jump into the X corner real quick?
Sure.
So I think the one X book that we have to talk about this week is Immortal X-Men number 8.
Mm-hmm.
It's written by Kieron Gillen with art by Michelle Bandini. Colors are by David Curiel and letters are by VC's Clayton Cowles. So this is a Mystique and Destiny-centered book, but ultimately this is a precursor to all of the, well, let's just say Mr. Sinister has played a prominent role in the in this era of is it Fall of X now? Are we in Fall of X, or is it still Reign of X?
I think we're going into Fall of X, if I'm not mistaken. I'm not sure. I think we may still be in Reign, but we're kind of about to get over.
Right, we're kind of transitioning. Right, we're transitioning in between the two. I think we're in the tail end of Reign of X. Right. But ultimately, what the X books have been doing, especially over the course of Judgment Day, especially in the pages of Immortal X-Men, they've really played up the fact that Mr. Sinister, Nathaniel Essex, is a wolf in their midst, a potential, Judas, amongst the apostles, because he is out for self in the most purest way. And ultimately, this issue serves as a bit of a history lesson as to how the Nathaniel Essex has played over the years, and how long, and it establishes his longevity over the course of many, many years, running basically parallel to the lives of Mystique and Destiny. And, there's reference made to Essex's deal with Ensabar Nur, who we know better as Apocalypse.
Right. All of these characters mentioned have been around a long, long time. Long enough to apparently where one of them, let's say, has moonlit themselves as a famous detective.
Yeah, elementary.
Yes, which was an amusing thing to find out here. So yeah, I guess the curious thing for me with this particular issue is, okay, granted, yes, this sets up Sinister as being, which we knew had been around for a long time, and Mystique and Destiny also, and their run-ins with him, their first couple of run-ins with him during a particular time frame. It's slightly curious because both Mystique and Destiny are both no longer alive in the current time, if I'm not mistaken. Because as far as I know, because remember during Judgment Day they got wiped, they got taken off the board. So I don't think they got resurrected
Yet.
But that brings that up because, as you recall, they didn't want to resurrect Destiny in the first place.
Right.
So
that was something that Moira didn't want, but now she's off the board. She's with Orcus now, so
right. So I'm kind of yeah. I guess that's why other reason why I'm bringing it up. Like, is that off the table now that now that Moira is kind of off the board?
It seems likely, but we'll see. Now that we're a month out from Judgment Day stories, we've had. I think most of the books that had tie-ins with Judgment Day have now had one issue, or about to have one issue during the course of this month to kind of reset their stories post Judgment Day crossover. So we'll see how we transition from the pages of Judgment Day and see what lasting effects there are from Judgment Day.
Right. I think the one or two other little small notes in this issue is the fact that there is reference to Charles's that have been the bane of Sinister's existence, including the one you know of, or at least will be. I should say will be the bane of, but also at that time there was always a Charles kind of against him,
right,
and also kind of teasing not necessarily teasing, but kind of bringing up some machines or the prototypes or the proto comings of some machines that have plagued the X-Men, but also a particular name of folks with the mutant gene that Sinister calls them, that is kind of a play on what we now call them or what we currently call them, but using his name. So like, okay, they're trying to tie that together, which I'm like, okay, I guess I guess that's the thing you could do, but but we definitely see shades of things that we kind of that we know that's already come, and probably stuff that we're going to see going into the Fall of X.
Right. It's just interesting, and I think we can wrap the discussion on Immortal X-Men number 8 with this. It's interesting to see. Obviously there is a Sinister-based crossover that's about to start. So it's interesting to see that Sinister has gotten so much screen time, so much play in the wake of the Krakoan age, the Hoxpox age going forward, because this was not, to me, one of the more classic X villains. I'm being honest, but I think they have done an excellent job of elevating him to become one. Obviously, with retcons aplenty. Right. Retcons aplenty. If you recall, 10 of Swords was basically a going away party of sorts for Apocalypse, but they essentially made Sinister, a new. They really enhanced Sinister's story in over the course of Hoxpox and beyond. Obviously, by featuring him in Hellions, and they really pushed him out, from Hellions, which is kind of like a tertiary book, to the forefront now.
Right. Yeah.
Well, not tertiary. Let's say secondary. That was a secondary X book.
Yeah, I mean, because I think he featured more prominently. Which one was the one? I guess it was this one, right? No, not this one. One of the X books that pretty much featured the Quiet Council more prominently.
That's Immortal, right? But Immortal wasn't one of the initial launch books or one of the early Hoxpox books, right? So, but Hellions came out, and there was a version of this is a mild spoiler. There was at least a version of Sinister running around on Hellions.
Right. And yeah, and coming out of that, I think we have another version that's kind of currently running around, which is may or may not be the original. We don't know. I don't know. Or the original is supposed to be around somewhere, but not on Krakoa. I don't know. It's weird, folks.
Exactly. It's the point being is that they're really highlighting the Sinister character. So, they're really playing with the character and really developing stories around the character that heretofore hadn't been. Like I said, it's the strength of you being able to retcon these characters into all sorts of situations. Making Sinister that we kind of knew that Sinister was long lived for a while, but I don't think we really understood, and they've really done a good job of developing this over time. And this is a case of writers really picking up the ball picking up the baton where other writers left it when it came to this character, and they've really made Sinister really one of the highlights of this era of X-Men stories. In terms of being an antagonist slash, not even an anti-hero, but definitely an antagonist slash, reluctant ally.
Right. He's come a long way from going after Scott Summers and all that whole thing and for what we found out in Inferno.
Yep.
So it is quite interesting. All right.
And I would say, and the Marauders.
And the Marauders, correct. Yeah.
We're going all the way back to Mutant Massacre.
Yep. So, which now that reminds me of something I was going to bring up with a Twitter thing that had come up, but doesn't matter. Do we have one more book, or do we want to rapid fire? I mean, like She-Hulk or that Captain America one.
Yeah, we'll do She-Hulk real quick.
Okay.
We'll do She-Hulk real quick. All right, so She-Hulk number 8 is written by Rainbow Rowell, with art by returning artist, returning to Marvel at least, Takeshi Miyazawa. Always happy to see Taka Miyazawa on a book. Colors are by Rico Renzi, and letters are by our favorite lettering paisan, VC's Joe Caramagna. So I think we mentioned this on the last episode in which we talked about She-Hulk number 7, whenever that was last month, that there are strong echoes of the Disney Plus show being the strong echoes being heard in the current She-Hulk storyline, specifically echoes of the final few episodes. We find out in this issue we were spot on, and I'll let Roddykat take it from here.
Yeah, and I'm going to add, sadly, we were spot on, because I was hoping they were going to at least tweak it just a little bit, and they have, but not enough.
There's definitely some comic book centric issues here, as opposed to what they portrayed on the television show. Right,
but outside of that, it's just like, it won't take much for just like, okay, nope, that's just that. This is just that. But the crux of the story is that we have a backstory on two, I guess we can now call them antagonists, to She-Hulk, which is the April and Mark characters that we met a few issues ago and happened to come back at the end of the last issue. We get their motivations. We get what they're doing. We get their motivations for what they're doing. And I guess it pretty much ends with, them going forward with their plan, I guess, which which they had already started doing, but this is just gonna getting folks up to speed with that plan up until the end of last issue, or up until the last issue, I should say.
Gotcha.
There was a couple of little amusing bits in this because there's references to other characters' origin stories, as in other words, how they got their powers, but also kind of a diss to them in that respect.
Right.
And also we found out that apparently Tony Stark's labs are easier to get into than Reed Richards.
I was gonna say, I'm like, that's a low blow, but understandable.
Right. Which I had a little chuckle on that one. I was like, all right, that would hurt the ego if you found it out. But also,
pretty much.
But also, given what's going on currently in the pages of Iron Man, not that surprising.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. Or even Iron Cat.
Yeah. Exactly. So.
Even Iron Cat made it seem like it wasn't that big a deal to bypass some of the digital security of Stark Industries or Stark Enterprises or whatever they're calling themselves nowadays.
Right. But to be fair, in that respect, at least you can safely say that, hey, Felicia's a world-class thief. Sure. Like she, Tamara Blake, and maybe Gambit. Those are probably the three people that could, foreseeably get through there with very little problem. These two, like, yes, they're pretty smart, but it's like they just bopped the door and went in. It was like, I don't know, there's no security here, whatever. But we don't know what happened. There was just a one-off reference to that in the stories, which was still kind of amusing. But yeah, outside of that,
yep.
The whole MCU like plot was kind of a down note. We were talking before the show about, like, this book had been plotted a few months, probably a good 4 to 6 months back, or probably more than that maybe. And the show probably a good year before, a year or two before we actually saw it. So there is possible that there's been some folks privy to
synergy.
It. Yeah, so some folks privy to it, to what's happening there, or could be just a weird coincidence. That seems less likely, but we don't have enough information to say one way or the other. It's just really curious that there's a plot that's similar.
Timing is way too coincidental.
Right.
Convenient for this similar storyline. This it's just far too, the echoes are far too great. They're too strong.
But outside of that, still a fairly decent read, because we did not know much about these two characters, and now we do. We just know they just popped up, and at the end of the last issue, wanted something from She-Hulk, and now we know why.
Right.
So.
Right.
All right. With that, I guess we can go into rapid fire.
Yes, I am going to spin up the minigun in 3, 2, 1.
I ain't got time to bleed.
All right, first up is Captain America and the Winter Soldier Special #1. It's written by Jackson Lansing and Colin Kelly, with pencils by Kev Walker, inks by J.P. Mayer, colors by Casey Diaz, and letters by our favorite lettering paisan, VC's Joe Caramagna. So this is literally on the heels of last week's Captain America Sentinel of Liberty issue, and we find ourselves alongside the Winter Soldier, Bucky guys as the Revolution, or the New Revolution, that is. Looking for Prince. Shout out to Prince. May he rest in peace.
Nice.
And we had to come up with a music reference at some point, folks. So I wanted to ask Roddykat if he thought this was an effective introduction of the members of the Outer Circle and made you care about them, because it did not do enough for me. I understood that they're kind of an Illuminati type group. It's interesting that there is a former, it seems like an exile from Wakanda amongst their number. and it seems like they have been affecting world history and the events of the world essentially since the days of World War One. So basically, the bulk of the 20th century and going into the 21st century, this group have been playing a particular game and events, basically through the rise of the Marvel superheroes. So I found myself not caring about these characters, and I found that to be a little sad.
So I'm slightly with you because I felt like this is information we kind of got in the course during the course of the main in Captain America Sentinel of Liberty. I believe that's Steve's book, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So I feel like we got enough information about that for them to not have to kind of do this.
I feel like they needed to make us not like these characters. So I felt like this was needed because of the whole setting up of this Cold War storyline.
Right.
So I think that's where this story was necessary. It's just that I don't think they're making us not like these characters because they seem like, like cookie cutter Illuminati types.
Right. And also in at least in a couple of respects just seemed like, okay, well, no, this is just stuff people are actually doing with a couple of them. Like, yeah, one of them is using their money to get what they want. And, with money comes power and this and that other. Like, okay, we know people. Well, I mean, we know that is the thing that people are doing, in cases.
Right.
So yeah, that's not that, that's not outside of the realm of possibilities for those. To me, it felt like, and I think I said this with the last Sentinel of Liberty issue, just seems more like Metal Gear Solid characters, which, if you've never played Metal Gear Solid, the video games, you probably would not know what I mean by that. But basically, yeah, the way they talk about them, that just sounds like these are just Metal Gear Solid characters, which I guess
I haven't played that since the first or second one.
Right. Well, if you play either one of those, you the second one pretty much, yeah, definitely. I mean, especially if it's Metal Gear Solid, because it's Metal Gear and Metal Gear Solid. But if you play any of the Metal Gear Solids, the villains kind of sound like they describe them here.
Right, and ultimately, and this is, I'll confess to being one of the more impatient gamers, which is why I'm not a gamer now. I despised playing Metal Gear Solid sometimes because you had to sneak and not go in guns blazing.
Fair.
That was, like I kind of succumbed to the need to sneak, but I was just like, no, I want to just blow some stuff up, and I'm like, well, I guess I'm queuing up a different game to scratch that particular itch. Right. But ultimately, the outer circle, is basically divided into like 5 points, making a 5-pointed star. So you have the power, the money, the machine, the love, and the revolution. Right. That's the gist of this group of Illuminati, and they're all basically working together but playing against each other, and they're looking to influence world events. And Bucky is taking the place of the old revolution, and now he was looking to basically take down this group because they had been manipulating him, as the Winter Soldier since the 40s. Right. So whether or not he's successful is going to be part of what this Cold War story, probably delineates and describes.
Right. And the interesting, well, not interesting, but the funny part about that is that's what the old revolution was set up to do, because they go through that in the course of in this issue. So like they pretty much set up all the 5 points and the star points in the middle, and they basically like it felt like something they would have done in the MCU, where it's like, okay, we pretty much got a relatively clear understanding of what it does, but then they'd go through or who this is or what this is, but then they just gave an arbitrary, no, we're going to put a point on this. This is what this means. I would cite Namor's Namor's name. as a recent example of that. It's like we didn't necessarily need that, but here we go. We're just going to go through this long drawn out explanation as to how we got to that, and they kind of did that in this, which kind of not necessarily rubbed me the wrong way. Just like this was just highly unnecessary.
Yeah, I just felt like the necessary part wasn't pulled. They didn't pull it off, which is to make me care about these guys as bad, or at least as antagonists. Maybe not bad guys, right?
Right.
I didn't care about them. They're like I said, it felt like they were cookie cutter, Illuminati types.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, agreed.
So I mean, they may develop them over more time, but if you're giving them basically a one shot, I should care more about these characters. Like give me a little bit more of a backstory or something for each of them. But you've got enough pages in this book to do it.
Right. And therein lies the problem, as we have seen with Spidey side books. Like, yeah, they do it, and then it ends up still not really making you care a whole lot about it. Matter of fact, seeming arbitrary and not necessary at a certain time. It was like, okay, there's this. I'm not going to sit here and say this book wasn't necessary, but it kind of felt like that to me. And just like those side issues that we pretty much lamented on in the past year or two.
Right. Like we're not exactly disagreeing here, folks. We just have different takes on why we weren't exactly, thrilled with this issue.
Right. But it pretty much harkens back to that, and Agent 7 gets what I'm saying. So.
Right. I don't necessarily agree. I think it was necessary. I just don't think they pulled it off.
No.
Like they were looking to do, it just didn't work.
Yeah. Anyway.
All right. Next up for me is Nightwing number 98. It's written by Tom Taylor with art by Danielle Di Nicuolo. Colors are by Adriano Lucas and letters are by Wes Abbott. This is kind of a one and done interlude type story in the current story where Nightwing and Batgirl are dealing with the fallout from the recent storyline, which found Nightwing at least temporarily triumphant against Blockbuster in Bloodhaven. But now there are some, Nightwing and dealing with some of the ramifications from those events and into this kind of serious, kind of based in somewhat real life, dealing with witnesses and witness protection and whatnot. Into this story walks an imp, not Mxyzptlk, not Batmite, but close. And it's really kind of a one and done type issue where there's just some fun little imp storytelling going on. If you're not familiar with that, you can kind of flip through it. There is a lot of humor and fun to be had at Nightwing's expense in this, even from characters like Batgirl from Barbara Gordon.
So question, I know when we talked about this in the news a while back, there was a slight groaning of the fact that Nightwing has its own Batmite. That still plays? That still holds true?
Yep. That's all part of this. It's part of this issue.
Weird.
It's all part of this issue. There's some really nice moments in this. It's really fun, but it's definitely kind of like a one and done, like, oh, okay. This doesn't necessarily push a lot of the story forward, but it does, because there is some Blockbuster related stuff in here. There is some other, kind of long running like storyline stuff that gets carried forward in this issue. So there is that. But yeah, lots of, it's not, once I say Nightwing's version of Batmite, it's not hard to figure out what this particular imp is called. So, I'm not going to spoil it, but it's not exactly hard to figure out.
Yeah, I think we did when we talked about it in the news, but if anybody remembers that episode, we talked about it. So
Right. All right. Next up is Shang-Chi and the Ten Rings #5. It's written by Jean Luen Yang with art by Marcus To, colors by Eric Arciniega, and letters by VC's Travis Lanham. Roddykat also read this issue, so I'll give him a chance to chime in. Ultimately, we continue our Jean Luen Yang's homage to Game of Death, that being the last movie in which Bruce Lee starred, which was completed and released posthumously. And the number of fighters seeking to gain the 10 rings gets whittled down further. We have a little bit of resolution when it comes to Leica Wu's involvement in the story, and we also have the origin of the 10 rings told in the story. And I will let Roddykat take it from there.
So yeah, there's another set of 10 rings that classically in Marvel history that have alien origins, let's say. These are not those rings, but they're kind of close.
Right. Those rings are over in Iron Man right now, or at least decent stories.
Correct. Yes, and we forgot to talk about that because they did mention it in Iron Man 25, but just kind of in passing.
Well, yeah, I was about to say we mentioned it obliquely, trying not to spoil it, because
Right.
at the end of the day, we talked about how like a lot of the characters, that had come in over the last, over the course of the, like we kind of caught up with a lot of characters that appeared in the book over the course of the 25 issues.
Right.
So that's how I addressed it without like completely going in there. But yeah, there is at least a check-in in that regard on those rings in Iron Man. But go ahead.
So yeah, the only thing that is curious, like I said, the origins of those separate sets of rings are separate in the fact that are together in the fact that they both have alien origins. And there's a curious thing to me because there is a character that is mentioned in the telling of the origin story that I'm sure is based in actual myth. Okay.
I just got an email. I'm just like, someone forgot to change something in it, but it's all right. Go ahead.
Gotcha. That DC also has used frequently recently in a book that I'm going to talk about actually when I get to my books. So that's kind of curious. Outside of that, I don't know. Like sure, the origins of the rings, that was a good thing to see, but at the same time I'm like, so that's kind of how I felt about it, like this whole tournament thing is all right, and them throwing in the origin of the 10 rings was necessary, I suppose, but at the same time it's like, okay, so at the end of this, where is this going? And it also had to do with something that happened before this tournament happened and went down. So I don't know. Anyway, that's all I got to say about that.
I'm sorry, folks. I got a little distracted by a faulty email I just received. Last but not least, for the books that I think Roddykat and I have in common, I don't know if you have this on your list, is Duo #6.
No, because that's a book from last month, but
right. So we did not get around to it.
Right.
So Duo #6. This is a DC milestone book. It's written by Greg Pak with pencils by Khoi Pham, inks by Scott Hanna, and colors by Chris Sotomayor. I'll just say that this issue wraps with, a cliffhanger. There is a to be continued. The duality of the protagonist characters kind of made me look at this issue with, there's a bit of a shimmering effect that Khoi Pham and the colorist uses, Chris Sotomayor uses to make the dual nature of the protagonist, the portrayal of the dual nature of the protagonist, to make that look feasible on the page made me kind of stare at it a little bit. So I'm really not trying to spoil it because I know that Roddykat's going to get around to reading this, but ultimately, I thought, you know, this was a nice little story in the DC milestone corner of the universe. Whether or not we have more of these stories remains to be seen. And that's it for me.
Right, because I believe this is the last issue of that series. Yeah.
Yes, this is the final issue of this miniseries.
So the fact you said it is another cliffhanger is kind of curious, but
well, not cliffhanger, but it's like, is this the end, as opposed to like a true cliffhanger?
Oh, okay, gotcha. Like they could bring this up somewhere else.
Yep,
gotcha. Okay. For myself, pardon me, excuse me. We're going to go. Pardon me as I get back to the current week's books. Gambit number 5, which actually is also the last issue of the this miniseries. It's written by Chris Claremont, with art by Sid Koshian, color artist Espen Grendigen, and letters by VC's Clayton Cowles. So this is one of those. This Gambit book was one of those. This takes place in between issues of an old storybook, of an old story that you would probably know about. In this case, it is after the introduction of Gambit in was it Uncanny X-Men 240, something like that?
I don't remember the numbers, but yeah, Uncanny X-Men. This is this is a pre-Extinction Agenda.
Yes. While Storm was still a child in a child body.
Exactly, pre-Extinction Agenda, because we all know that gets resolved during Extinction Agenda.
Correct. So this is as the end of this book says, like, this is the adventures they pretty much got into in between a certain issue, which I believe the issue in question is like 267, which was, I think, right after Gambit got introduced and met Storm. So yes, so this whole adventure kind of took place in between that, and it seems like at the end of this, potential for another one of these miniseries could happen. Because just like Agent 70 said with Duo, I was like, yeah, this is while this is the end of this, another one of these could happen. A similar situation happened with the Maestro books in a fashion, except for the fact that, you know, the Maestro books happened before, is basically a prequel to Future Imperfect, whereas this is, you know, a new old story set in between some issues. Or an issue or two, so there is that. It was a fun book. We did get introduced to a couple of new characters during the course of this series that I kind of hope will return, but at the end of this issue, or let's just say, they are not the same as the way they came into this story. So without giving too much away. But the crux of this issue has to do with some bounty hunters, a Lil Cheney concert, and some romantic dealings between Gambit and one of the new characters. And although the interesting part about this, which I recognize is in service of kind of steering this back towards where the X-Men books kind of take back in, of course they kind of had to, like, well, okay, yeah, this is the thing that happened, but we kind of got to bring it back to what we know the story is going to be. So in that respect, they kind of make the end of the story being more about Aurora, without actually going into any particular things that happen in this story. For the most part, now that it's over, you know, if you like Gambit and the adventures of Gambit and little Aurora, check this out. I suspect there might be another one coming at some point soon, but I don't know that for certain. But it just seems like they set it up, the fact that there could very well be more to come. Next up, we have Black Adam number 6 of 12. Whip boop. And I'm just gonna go right off of my notes with this, and you'll understand why when you hear about the first line. So the plot and script is by Christopher Priest, pencils by Eber Ferreira, inks by Matt Herms, and letters by Willie Schubert. Batman v Black Adam. That's pretty much the crux of the issue. And if the slip up of me saying Batman v Superman was intentional, because of the fact of, if you remember that movie and the interaction between those two characters slightly plays off a little bit like this in a sense, or at least starts off like it was going to, but it kind of diverts into them staring at each other and pretty much talking at each other for the majority of the book. There is some fisticuffs to be had, so don't worry about that. And of course, just like that movie, one of the characters says, the playing field was level in a way that I'm still not sure how this happened. But we also come to find out there at the end of this issue that the reason this happened and who's behind the reason this happened may not have anything to do with the person who struck the blow, let's just say. And I'm still kind of curious as to when that happened. So I'm like, do I need to go back and read the last issue again to see if I missed something out of this? Because at a certain point, the characters end up being somewhere else. And I'm like, how did this happen? Which gets explained, but I'm sitting here like, well, when did that happen? But yeah, we find out somebody else is behind some things. We don't know why, and this is a character we've seen pop up in this Black Adam book before, kind of briefly, but we still don't know why. Because there's a couple of things that's going on in this book, and I'm not sure how it's all, or if it's all going to tie together. So, but it's also, this whole story also takes place before Justice League 75, if I've said that before, because I know I have, and that's part of the reason why some of the things get mentioned here. And seemed like it coming out of this issue may be part of the motivation of why things have happened. So yeah, so this takes place before the death of the Justice League. This takes place before Black Adam. Well, when Black Adam joins the Justice League, which was like right before that issue, and before the current crisis, which is still going on now, which we talked about last week. Next issue to talk about is actually dealing with one of the characters. Batman Batman Superman World's Finest. There's no V in it. Number 9. So this is written by Mark Waid, with art by Dan Mora, colors by Tamara Bonvillain, and letters by Steve Wands. So the things of note in this issue is that Batman takes the Boy Thunder, who is Superman's previously not known sidekick, and this is also being set in a previous time, not current, because clearly this character is not around, but maybe maybe they will show up. But anyway, Batman takes the Boy Thunder out on a training mission that while the mission goes off, doesn't necessarily go well in one respect, but then the rest of the issue is pretty much people getting advice from other people. In the case of Superman getting advice from the Flash about having a sidekick, the Teen Titans kind of taking the Boy Thunder under his wing on a mission and kind of trying to help him try to teach him the works before something happens on a mission, and Superman kind of has to take Boy Thunder to the side because of some issues that he's still kind of wrestling with. But if you're watching the video version and seeing a certain clown on the cover, yes, that person does end up being involved in this story. In fact, this this character is involved with another character that has come in previous issues, and they are working together. If you know this character's history with sidekicks, then you know nothing good will come of, well, nothing could potentially come of this character being involved. But we shall see what happens the next issue. Next up for myself is the last book for me, actually. And that is Murderworld Avengers number 1 of, I believe, 4. Well, so this is one of those, hey, this is a one-shot that's going to go into another one-shot that that deals with other groups. So we've seen those before, where it's like, okay, Miss Marvel, was teamed up with the X-Men in one issue, and then Moon Knight the next. So this is kind of one of those until whatever plot gets resolved. This is one of those, and starts off with the Avengers, although the Avengers in this story don't get used the way you think they would in a story that supposedly features the Avengers. So to get the creative team out of the way, the writer is Jim Zub, art by Jethro Morales, colors by Matt Miller, and letters by VC's Corey Pettit. So the name Murderworld has been around since, I want to say, the 70s, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah, am I close, or am I right about that, or I think you're muted.
I want to say Arcade has been around even longer.
Like 60s, like late 60s?
Late 60s.
Yeah, I
want to say Arcade was around for the original X-Men run, but I am going to check while you go ahead.
So that being said, the idea of Murderworld predates the movie Battle Royale, predates any Battle Royales that you may know of, and talking about that one particular game that I won't speak of, and or Squid Game. And the reason why I mention that is because this is pretty much that. So
me?
Okay, what's up?
Hold that thought. Arcade does not appear actually until Marvel Team Up number 65 in October 1977. Okay. So it's much later than what I thought. It's actually during the Arcade essentially appears during the era of Dark Phoenix.
Gotcha. Okay. So I knew
post Dark Phoenix actually.
Right. Okay. So I was close. So, but nevertheless, still predates those things that I mentioned by a good run. But nevertheless, the crux of the story is we meet a main character who apparently is let's say he's a YouTuber, and does the YouTube things, but has a particular interest in Murderworld, and lo and behold gets invited to Murderworld under a pretense, but shock upon shockers, doesn't necessarily go the way they think it does, and the Avengers are involved, and we find out something. We find out something about the main character, which is kind of a surprise, but not necessarily a surprise considering folks that Arcade is used to dealing with initially, let's just say. But there is a twist at the end, which I wasn't expecting, that is going to go into the next book, which I can't remember who's involved with the next book. I would have to leave, but it's definitely we're moving away from the Avengers with the next book. Supposedly there was a documentary. I don't think that's going to happen during the course of this, but Arcade's back. He's doing his Murderworld thing, and there are some folks that are going to be in. There are definitely some folks involved, and some folks get dealt with during the course of this issue in that respect, in a more Murderworld / Battle Royale fashion. So you can tell that, while Arcade and Murderworld predates the things mentioned, they do definitely take some cues from said material. for certain. It looks like next up is Murderworld Spider-Man, and then there's Murderworld Wolverine and Murderworld Moon Knight. And then looks like there's going to be a last book called Murderworld Game Over. So buckle up. I'm sure we will talk about most, if not all of those when they come up. And I'm sure they're going to come up quick because they usually like to get those books out in pretty rapid fashion. But nevertheless, it's an interesting start if you like the Battle Royale type situation.
Everything okay?
Oh, I'm tripping. Never mind. I thought for a minute there, I thought our cameras were gone, but I just remembered what I'm seeing on the live feed is not live. So moving right along, that's pretty much it for me, and we can now go to Kliqs of the Week.
Kliqs of the Week.
We do have one Kliq of the Week from Dirt, which is I believe it's Junkyard Joe. I'm looking for the cover right now. I think I did pull it. Junkyard Joe #2. Yep, here it is.
Who's that published by?
Let's see. Image.
Oh, that's an Image book this week. Okay.
As a matter of fact, yeah, Junkyard Joe #2 is to be specific.
I see. I see it. Wow, cover A is by Gary Frank.
He doesn't give any notes on it, but he just said that was it. So I didn't really look into the book myself to see what it's about, but there is that. We didn't get anything from Tim, so
that's okay. But he did post something on Instagram. Yeah, this today. I happened to see it.
What? Yeah, I saw he had posted, but I didn't.
About Nightwing.
Oh, okay.
It was about Nightwing.
Okay.
So, but I don't know. I won't say that was his Kliq of the Week, but I will say that is a candidate for yours truly.
Interesting.
Because this week was filled with decent reads, but nothing that really jumped out at me. Yeah. I will say that Nightwing #98 is a candidate. I will say that despite the strong echoes, so much so that it rhymed with the Disney Plus show, She-Hulk #80 strong issue, because it really, did a lot of backstory, like laying out of the backstory of these two characters that we don't seen in cameo appearances up until now. And I definitely dug seeing Takeshi Miyazawa's art again on a Marvel book.
Indeed.
And I will also say that, despite my misgivings over, that it was kind of like a quiet ending to his run, I did like the main story in Iron Man #25. So those would be my three candidates. I'll let Roddykat talk about his while I continue to internally debate and figure it out.
Yes. Well, so for myself, I think I echoed the sentiments on Iron Man 25. I will say that I am slightly more curious as to the Duggan run that is forthcoming than I was before now, but I'm still not really, it is still a tepid curiosity on that, especially with what I've read of, what they're saying about it. Immortal X-Men was kind of fun in its own way, because of the whole Sinister and the Mystique and Destiny thing. I'm not sure if I'm ready to put it as a candidate, but I enjoyed reading it. She-Hulk definitely is another candidate as well. Despite despite the similarities in the MCU show.
So much so that it rhymed.
Exactly. So I feel like I need to go back and read Murderworld Avengers, because I kind of blew through it, but everything I said about it pretty much still stands, and it's like, okay, yeah, it's just Arcade doing Murderworld. I'm doing Battle Royale kind
arcade thing.
Yes,
right. He's doing arcade. thing.
Exactly, which is
So.
So like,
All right, so I'll give you a break. I will say that my click of the week this week is Nightwing number 98.
Okay. Kind of settled down on that one, huh?
Yeah, it was a fun read, despite the fact that, like I said, it was almost like a one-off, but it definitely did a little bit to move the story along, the main story along, and it was just kind of like an offbeat, imp-based story. So, but I think of the other two candidates that I had, I think Iron Man number 25 would have come in second.
Right, and to be fair, when was the last time we've had an imp-based story with a, with a DC character? I feel like it's.
I mean, we don't read that much DC.
That is also true.
And at the end of the day, the Superman books have. Actually, I don't know where Mxyzptlk last appeared, so I always assume that it's a Superman book.
Actually, I feel like we had that might have been one of those like side stories, like one of those Elseworlds books, though, that Mxyzptlk recently showed up.
Right, or Kimple Skim.
Yes, exactly. So for myself, just to kind of to get this going, Gambit, She-Hulk, or Iron Man?
Nope, wrong one.
Black Adam was also kind of interesting for what it was, but also that was like, okay, we've kind of seen it before, but the kind of stuff behind why it's happening is kind of a curiosity. So I think actually, you know what? I'm going to go with Immortal X-Men number 8 for, I don't know, no apparent reason.
Okay.
But
okay, like I said, they're definitely building towards the Sinister crossover.
Yes, indeed. So we will see what's going to go with that, and in the X part of the corner. And with that, folks, we are going to move on to the news. But first, an ad read.
Our first ad read of the night is for Funko, Fun at First Sight. It's your home for exclusive collectibles such as their world-famous pop vinyl bobbleheads, apparel including t-shirts, hats, and socks, and brand merchandise including custom DIY pop figures, art books, and skateboards. And now the listeners of the Comic Book Chronicles can enjoy 10% off your entire purchase when shopping at Funko. To place your first order with 10% off and to help keep our show free for you, go to our network website at cspn.us. That's cspn.us. Then click on the Keep Our Podcasts free link at the top of the page. From there, scroll down to the Funko link and place your order. When you get to the checkout, put in the offer code SHOP10 for your 10% off discount. Funko through cspn.us. Do it today. And now we get into the news.
Yeah, there we go. We get into the cinematic news as we do about this time. Andor season 2 was inspired by a mystery summer blockbuster, apparently, but Tony Gilroy hasn't said which one. According to this article. So was speaking with
you mean it's not Star Wars? I'm kidding.
Nice. Oh wait, actually, oh no, this talks about other Tony Gilroy projects, including Rogue One. But speaking to Script Magazine, Gilroy revealed that a recent Hollywood film, and more specifically that film's trailer, inspired him and his team in prep for Andor season 2. Quote, we're doing something in season 2 that we're prepping that's very complicated, Gilroy said. And there's a movie that just came out over the summer. In fact, it came out as a trailer, and then and everybody on this thing was buzzing like, oh my God, look at that. Look how they did this thing. And it's like, it goes like a virus to the stunt department, and the visual effects department is like, hey man, how do you do this? And then God, did you see it? And it's a pass around thing. Again, oh, apparently he wasn't even asked what film it was, but according to this article, the article's writer mentions Michael Bay's Ambulance, which I totally forgot was a movie that came out this summer. But they don't know. And I guess another possibility is Top Gun Maverick, but that, I don't know. This is according to what the article's writer thinks. Part of me was thinking, wait, they couldn't be talking about that Winnie the Pooh thing. They couldn't possibly be talking about that thing. But I don't know. That's we'll see. But like I said, the rest of the article ends up being speculation on what the movies were. Next up, so this is a tease from Andor star Adria Arjona for the possible future of her character Bix. So the show still has not revealed what's next for Bix, obviously, because we're at the penultimate episode. Arjona recently talked about her character's arc with StarWars.com and teased that things will never be the same for the character. So, we've talked about this on the show, that what has happened to Bix in her personal life has completely, will have ramifications for her. And ultimately, she is going to go through some real changes moving forward into the second season. I would say that's put in slightly mildly, given what we saw, but yes.
Right.
Star Wars and Studio Ghibli announced Star Wars Disney Plus short, which is out already for your perusal, by the way. I guess I should have put this closer to the anime corner, but I did not. Because that's pretty much where this belongs. Anyway, so there was a tease last week, after probably a day or two after the show, that Studio Ghibli and Star Wars was doing something together, and then it dropped like the next day.
I didn't know that. Okay.
The next a couple of days, actually. Yeah, it did. Yeah, because this matter of fact, because this article's from the 11th, and I believe it dropped on the 12th.
Oh, it's on the Plus. Yep. Okay, it's on Disney Plus.
It is. It's titled Zen, Grogu and the Dust Bunnies. Oh, excuse me, Grogu and Dust Bunnies. And if that doesn't tell you pretty much everything you need to know, I don't know what to tell you. So yeah, Studio Ghibli doing Studio Ghibli things with Baby Yoda. I have not watched it yet, and
same.
I probably will. The funny thing is this would probably be the first Studio Ghibli thing that I've ever watched.
Really?
That's slightly untrue, because I think I started watching Princess Mononoke, but I never actually finished. So, but something all the way through. Definitely needs to be the first.
I definitely have more to watch. I can tell you that, based on my anime journey that I've described here on the Comic Book Chronicles, I have watched My Neighbor Totoro and Princess Mononoke. I will probably hit Spirited Away next. I just haven't gotten around to it.
Fair enough. I hope you have
your
tissues.
Alrighty. Say again?
I said I hope you have your tissues, but I can't remember if that's the one that's the sad one. I don't know. Either way, they're all probably sad.
Next up, so Sean Levy, the director of Deadpool 3 and executive producer of Netflix's Stranger Things, is in talks to develop and direct an upcoming Star Wars movie, as reported by Deadline. It's going to be a while, though, because he still has to complete the third Deadpool movie, which we've talked about will bring Hugh Jackman into the Marvel fold once again before Levy goes off to a galaxy far, far away.
So something funny about this. Recently, I was watching, I believe it was the Rift Tracks or MST3K Twitch channel. I think it was Rift Tracks. Sean Levy, or Levi, however you pronounce his name, was in an old movie called Zombie Nightmare, which they did, one of those two properties did a riff on. I did not know that until I saw the credits of it. And so I was like, wait, so this dude went on, I don't think he was in there like prominently, but he was definitely in there. It was an old, matter of fact, I think Adam West was also in the movie. and a couple other people. Now that I think about it, rest in peace, Adam West. But I was like, okay, so that guy went on to do Stranger Things, Deadpool, and now he's about to do a Star Wars movie. That was some funny mess when I saw that, though. Zombie Nightmare, not a good movie, but I guess I shouldn't be surprised given it was on Riff Tracks. Next up, though, Indiana Jones Disney Plus series is in development, apparently. Variety brings word of the potential TV show, revealing that the two companies have brought up ideas in meetings with writers. Since the idea seems to largely be theoretical at this point, it's unclear if the show is going to be a prequel to the feature films, a la Young Indiana Jones Chronicles, set somewhere else in the franchise's narrative, or perhaps even following a totally different character altogether instead of Henry Indiana Jones Jr. We named a dog Indiana. Says here, one seems certain that about the potential Indiana Jones TV series is that Harrison Ford probably won't have anything to do with it. Boy, there are some typos in this article. Whew. Good gosh.
Trust me, that's my frustration on the email that I reviewed that made me react the way I did while Roddykat was reading a particular story or talking about it. I think he was reviewing a book. That, you know, seeing errors. I'm just like, that would have never. I wish they had just asked me to send this email. You know, one of those things. I'm like, morons.
You know, it's better for you that you didn't, because why would you put yourself through correcting somebody else's stuff? But I mean, you wouldn't be correcting somebody else's stuff in that respect, but you know,
I would have just done it. Exactly.
Right.
I would have just taken care of it correctly.
Right. But at any case,
shots fired, folks. I'm sorry, folks. Shots fired at people who, you know, may end up catching some real shots from me at some point.
Oh no. Alrighty then.
I'm seriously like venting right now. I'm venting right now, folks. I'm sorry.
Yes, and as he also well knows that legally anything he just said is can't be used against him because he's not.
Exactly.
But yes, I think I've seen elsewhere that it was mentioned that they were not going to basically recast an Indiana Jones. I can't remember if it was for this or for any upcoming movie that's going to happen, because I think there is a movie coming.
Yeah, I think it's for the. I think that particular story came out with regards to the sequel that's currently filming.
So that's still could potentially play into what happens here or not. We don't know. So, and again, like this article says, everything here is just kind of speculation and up in the air at this point. We don't know if it's actually a thing that's going to happen. Wouldn't be surprised if it did. If it did, though. Next up.
A slew of Marvel characters are heading to the small screen after MGM Plus, the linear network formerly known as Epix, and Amazon Prime Video ordered a suite of live-action series from Sony Pictures Television. This is reported by Deadline. So the Spider-Man spin-off series Silk Spider Society, which has been in the works for some time, will be the first show to emerge from the pact with The Walking Dead's Angela Kang set as showrunner. The deal is a complex web of rights. Oh, I see what you did there, Deadline. That meant the series will have to debut first on a linear network, in this case MGM Plus, which is set to be relaunched with its new name in January 2023. MGM Plus will have the first window in the US, and the series will then air on Amazon's Prime Video streaming service that is, in the United States. Internationally, the series will also air on the Amazon streamer in 240 countries and territories. Remember, of important note, Sony controls over 900 Marvel characters as part of an arrangement that predates Disney's acquisition of Marvel. So, you know, there's only a deal in place for the MCU version of Spidey.
Over 900? That's impossible.
Oh, no. That's a Dragon Ball reference, folks. That I finally understand.
Yes,
but it boggles my mind that there's so many characters that Sony will be able to completely botch.
Yeah, I feel like I feel like some of those are going to go back to Marvel at some point because there's no way they're going to be able to get things, put anything off the ground for all of them. Like clearly they're having luck with the spider, with the more main spider characters. So, and even some not so main. But yeah, a lot of that's gotta go back to Marvel at some point. Whoever they still have.
I hope that's a lot of characters. That's an entire corner of the Marvel universe that Sony still can monetize somehow.
And probably coming off the Spider Corner at that. Well, I guess between, let me see, do they have, no, Fantastic Four was Fox. So yeah, they pretty much got the Spider license and everything coming off of that. Wow.
Right, that's a lot. Think about how many characters and villains that is, folks.
Mm-hmm. All right.
We've seen a chunk of them. We've definitely seen a chunk of them in the MCU so far, right? Yeah. We've seen a chunk of them, but there's just so many more.
Yep. Thunderbolts will develop the relationship between Yelena and the Red Guardian. It's all about family. Says here that although he has not received a script for the MCU project, David Harbour spoke to IO9 while on press tour for his new holiday movie, Violent Night. I kind of want to add Deadly Night, but that's another old horror movie of a similar name. Also, you should watch Chopping Mall. It's not a Christmas movie, but it's funny. Well, no, I think it is. Regardless, he shared that the arc of the movie and how it functions. He knows the arc of the movie and how it functions, and it's super cool, according to this quote. He says that what director Jake Schreier wants to do with Florence's character is very interesting, and how I factor into it, into how we develop our relationship is very interesting, he says. Their troubled father-daughter dynamic was teased back in Black Widow, if you know, but Harbour hints that it will be explored even further in this movie that's, kind of ragtag. They're not really a Suicide Squad, but they're close, even though I think Thunderbolts predates Suicide Squad. So that's that. Next up.
So in the latest in the censoring of popular movies in parts of the world that are much more on the repressive side, the Hollywood Reporter has learned that there were a small number of edits made to Black Panther: Wakanda Forever in order for the movie to be released in Kuwait, which amounted to just over 1 minute of cuts in total, but it included the 10-second scene in which Aneka, and this is a spoiler, displays some affection to a same-sex partner. There's also, at the request of censors, a scene was removed in which a woman gives birth, and a reference to a child being born who is a god to a certain people.
Yes, and the line that it was associated with that, yes. So
right. I would just add that, interestingly, according to this article, Kuwait is the only territory to have insisted on cuts in this area. In this area, apparently,
right.
In other countries, it was released uncut. In the Middle East, so that's an interesting. Yeah, it's unedited in Saudi Arabia, the UAE, Oman, Bahrain, and Qatar. Interesting.
Is that how you pronounce that?
What?
Is it Qatar or Qatar? I don't know.
I've heard it both. I've heard it pronounced both ways.
Gotcha.
Or I've also heard it pronounced actually another way, gutter. Like the Q is a G.
Gotcha.
So
Badanesia, folks.
It's not as bad as Badanesia, folks.
No,
Badanesia, so that's just ill, yo.
Yeah.
I'm sorry to take that. I'm sorry to take that all the way to the streets, but that's just ill.
So the I guess the interesting part about this, if there was anything, in that the cut that was made to the scene between Anika and Ayo was, for the most part, innocuous. I mean, it's not really that much. It's not like they kissed or anything, just kind of a well-off sentence, So that's really weird. But then again, there are places that are, as Agent said, kind of repressive. So
Right, right, and there are stronger implications, and that's the thing.
well, there is that too. But yeah,
it's far more implied than obvious. So
yeah, but anywho, craziness in the world still. Angela Bassett warned that this is another spoiler, by the way. And Angela Bassett warned Wakanda Forever director that her character's twist could quote unseat fans. In fact, I was going to pull up an audio clip of something that that would have gone nicely with this, but it says here that when I won't necessarily spoil it, but if you're on the video version, you'll probably see it. Bassett told IndieWire that when she learned what happens to her character in the sequel, she talked with director Ryan Coogler about why it might be a regrettable twist. Quote, I objected. I was like, Ryan, what are you doing? Why? You'll rule the day. And that made me think of this movie, Real Genius, because those are characters like, rule the day. Who talks like that? But anyway, you will rule the whatever happens. People are gonna be so upset, and they were, because I was. She said he was like, Angela, I know, but look, to die is not to really die in this world. It doesn't really have to mean that, which is also true. In the world of comics, death is not necessarily the end, as this movie has said. This movie and the last movie said multiple times, actually, now that I think about it. So yeah, that's partially true. I mean, that's actually true, with the exception of Bill Foster and folks. We're not gonna talk about that. Anywho,
and Uncle Ben.
That's
pretty much it. That's pretty much it.
But about possibly returning in future Marvel movies, she added, all kinds of crazy things happen. So there you go. Right.
Next up, stunt performer Kalina Rutherford showed off the first version of the Ironheart armor she wore in Black Panther: Wakanda Forever. These are mild spoilers. There are multiple versions of the Ironheart armor in Wakanda Forever, and it makes a ton of sense. It mirrors the journey that both her character in the comics took and Tony Stark takes in the MCU. So that's the bottom line. Feel free to read this article for more. Rutherford gives props to Dominique Thorne for taking the time to do the stunt work that she did.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to Riri's show. They should probably give her a movie, but we'll see if that bears out from the show. But it's also cool, like, a lot of practical work, a lot more practical work was done in this movie than you think. I think something similar was actually said about Andor, in that there's a lot of things that were done practically that could have been done, by CGI, but they pretty much took the time and effort to do. So that's pretty cool. Next up, though, Wakanda Forever's director made it a point to distinguish Namor from Aquaman. You would think this would be, you would think that would be a notable reason. I mean, not a notable reason, but you would think that'd be like, no duh, you want to separate the characters, which in a way it kind of is. Even though they kept a couple of things, you might say. But nevertheless, in an interview with Uproxx, Ryan Coogler explained how he and the crew went to great lengths to ensure that villain anti-hero Namor was distinguishable from the distinguished competitions. I love when they use that. Resident underwater superhero Arthur Curry, aka Aquaman. He said that having Aquaman be such a well-known figure actually helped shape Namor's character for the film, allowing them to highlight the things that made Marvel's first mutant unique, such as the wings on his ankles, which Aquaman didn't have anyway, so that's irrelevant. Quote, I do think that having Aquaman out in the world in film language and being successful in the marketplace and being played by Jason Momoa, no less. I'm saying that, probably I'm not him, but I think it was a great bit of indirect guidance for us to lean into the things that made Namor different from Aquaman, Coogler explained. Just out of respect of the audience, because a lot of people saw that movie, a lot of people love that movie. it was our task to obviously put our heads down and blinders on and make our movie, but also have a sense of awareness of what the marketplace might want to respond to and might be interested in, which makes sense. Yeah. Cause if they had, I'm sure people even still probably was like, that's like, he's just Aquaman. I'm pretty sure there were some people who wouldn't know any better, probably still said that. So, but they did, to their credit, do some things differently to distinguish the two. So, next up.
All righty, next up, Aquaman's Jason Momoa, speaking of underwater characters, teases an upcoming dream project in the DC universe. So he's already getting excited about what he's describing as this dream come true. Speaking to Entertainment Tonight Canada, the Arthur Curry actor was prompted to discuss his thoughts on a potential Justice League reunion following Henry Cavill's return as Superman. Spoiler alert, that happened in Black Adam, folks. So he basically says with Peter Safran and James Gunn at the helm of DC, he's very excited about that and a lot of things.
Yeah, might as well take the next one because it's related.
Fine, 1 second. He clarifies apparently his recent dream project comments in the following days. So let's see here. He mentioned blah 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 blah. Right, so he had mentioned on November 6th that he had that he got some big news, and then on November 8th, he talked about the new DC leadership, as I just mentioned. However, in a more recent interview with Cinema Blend, Momoa explained that he has actually teased 2 separate projects instead of one massive project. Okay.
Yeah, and there was also a part where I think he mentioned something about working with a maestro or something like that, and people took that to be Zack Snyder, which I don't know why you would even say such a thing. But then again, there are those dumbasses. And I think there was some rumblings of a Lobo project during that whole thing. But I don't know if that's going to be a thing that happens. Regardless, James Gunn and Peter Safran's DC Universe Bible is nearly complete, according to this article. So, according to David Zaslav, actually, who confirmed that Gunn and Safran were coming close to an end, quote unquote, of drafting their roadmap for the cinematic universe's future during a discussion panel at RBC 2022 Global TIMNT, not to be confused with the Teenage Ninja Turtles conference. He also hinted that the document will represent a more unified approach to the DCU's overarching continuity, quote unquote. I think over the next few years, you're going to see a lot of growth and opportunity around DC. There's not going to be 4 Batmans. And yes, he did say Batmans, not Batmen, according to this article. So, and I guess he's referencing that the whole Affleck, Pattinson, whatever, all the stuff. So I'm like, okay, sure. You know what? There's really not much else to say about this article. Next up, so fans of the classic animated series, The Adventures of Batman, are finally getting a remastered Blu-ray release. So Warner Brothers Home Entertainment recently announced that a 2-disc set, The Adventures of Batman, the complete collection, is on the way. It includes all 34 episodes of the show, which was produced by Filmation and premiered on September 14th, 1968. So, let's see here, looking for information on the cost. The Adventures of Batman, the complete collection, hits shelves on February 28th, 2023, and will carry a suggested retail price of $29.98. So I'm trying to remember if I ever watched any of these, but there are some names involved in this that I definitely remember from Super Friends playing their characters. Well, playing music characters, except for Ted Knight, who was the quote unquote the narrator. You know, he was the Meanwhile at the Hall of Justice. But yeah, Casey Kasem as Robin. Ted Knight is Commissioner Gordon. Larry Storch is the Joker, which is funny to me. I'm sure a lot of people out there don't know who Larry Storch is. So don't worry about it. Look him up.
The name rings a bell, but I wouldn't be able to tell you what character or what roles he had.
F Troop. You would have to be of a certain vintage or somebody like me who watched a lot of TV to know who that was.
I was about to say that does not ring a bell for me.
Yeah. Anywho, next up. John Constantine confirmed to exist in Titans continuity, apparently. And this is spoilers for season 3, episode 3, called Jinx. Neither one of us are watching it, nor probably care that much about it. But nevertheless, the character of Jinx name drops John Constantine while talking with Nightwing. So Constantine is in Titans universe. There you go. We don't know if Matt Ryan is going to show up as Titan in the Titans as the character, or somebody else, or that was just a mention that's probably never going to go anywhere. Next up.
So, filmmaker Francis Lawrence is set to return and helm the sequel Constantine 2, which is in development at Warner Brothers, which will feature Keanu Reeves returning as Constantine. The first film was R-rated. However, Lawrence wants to go even further into adult territory this time around. In a recent interview with The Wrap, Lawrence said that he felt the first picture was more PG-13 than anything, and that is something he hopes to change with his follow-up. Okay, good luck.
Yeah, really. I still have yet to see that movie. Anyway.
Same.
Yeah. It's out. I know it's still out there on HBO Max, so I'm pretty maybe one of these days. Mortal Kombat 2 star Louis Tan hypes up the way bigger sequel. Boy. Tan teased the sequel's expanded scope in an interview with comicbook.com. Quote, we're full steam ahead. Mortal Kombat 2, he said. And now we have a Mortal Kombat co-creator Ed Boon with us as well. They should have gotten him in the first place. So we got the stamp of approval from the legend himself. The sequel is just going to be absolutely insane, way bigger, according to Tan. Tan's going to reprise his role as Cole Young, who is a character that is not a Mortal Kombat character, but somebody they made for this particular movie for some strange reason. Anywho, that's it. Oh, good. You get this one.
Next up. According to Deadline, Ted Lasso star Brett Goldstein is the latest actor to join Sony Pictures' upcoming animated Garfield film, which features Chris Pratt as the voice of Garfield. So he is the second Ted Lasso star to join the project after Hannah Waddingham, who was cast in the film along with Nicholas Hoult, Cecily Strong, and Ving Rhames in August 2022. Interestingly, the article that we have here is reporting what Deadline reports, but it actually whitewashes the name of another Saturday Night Live performer, Bowen Yang, cast in this movie. But the article here does not have his last name spelled correctly.
Okay.
You see it?
No, I didn't actually.
Well, he's no longer Bowen Yang, but Bowen Lang.
Oh.
Ouch. Ouch. Ouch.
Okay. That explains why you said whitewashing.
Exactly, folks.
Huh.
I would not go that far unless it was that bad a mistake.
Sure. Yeah, I don't know why this is necessary. We need Chris Pratt in less things, not more things. But it is what it is, I guess. Good.
Yeah, all of a sudden he's becoming like an accomplished voice actor. Like he's in Mario and he's going to be in Garfield.
Accomplished, maybe a little strong. He's definitely getting more voice acting.
You know what
work.
I mean? Like accomplished as in like multiple credits.
Sure, but yeah, I don't know why. It makes no sense. Anyway, just to get that taste out of our mouths, where to watch a Charlie Brown Thanksgiving this year? May remember sometime within the last year or two, we talked about the fact that the Charlie Brown, all the Peanut stuff was bought by Apple, and now it's languishing over on Apple TV. Well, as opposed to being on PBS and or network television. Well, if there's even such a thing.
Yeah, traditionally it was on network television.
Exactly. Which, folks, there used to be only 3 channels instead of hundreds, but we're not going to talk about that right now. It says here that basically you can. Oh, it says here that Apple agreed to a. Oh wait, no, that was from 2020. So yeah, it's on Apple TV Plus with the subscription. They're going to do all that other stuff, but it seems as though Apple TV Plus will provide a special free window for non-subscribers to stream a Charlie Brown Thanksgiving without a subscription. You can watch for free from November 23rd through November 27th on Apple TV Plus for free. So, or you could do what I did and buy the Blu-ray and or DVD sets, which I just did, which I'm kind of upset about because it was $18 and I should have jumped on it then. But nevertheless, still an investment. I still have them. But this article goes into all the other Peanuts related specials that are now on Apple TV Plus. So there you go. It's not on PBS, not on network TV, just Apple Plus, but Apple TV Plus. But at least they let you watch it. I don't know if they're going to do it with the Christmas special, which is probably the one that you really would want to see. But
right, that and the Great Pumpkin.
Right.
But I would say that they have done that in the recent past, is that they've allowed non-subscribers to log into Apple TV Plus and watch it for a small window during like the actual holiday for the last several years. So
gotcha. Next up.
All right. Next
Anime
up.
Corner.
So,
oh no, not Anime Corner, sorry.
No, Dragon Age Absolution, the upcoming animated series based on the Dragon Age role-playing video games, is officially slated to hit Netflix this December. The streaming giant has announced that Dragon Age Absolution will premiere on Friday, December 9th. Okay. Netflix also revealed a new trailer for the series as well as new pieces of key art.
I know some Dragon Age fans. I don't know how they feel about this, but I'm pretty sure they're excited. Now we're just going to go ahead and get into Anime Corner.
All righty.
Yes, because despite what Anime House wants to tell you, I believe Avatar is an anime. I will say that. Avatar: The Last Airbender animated movie coming to theaters in 2025. Per Variety, the untitled movie will receive a wide release in cinemas on October 10th, 2025. The first of several previously announced Last Airbender projects. The film will focus on Avatar Aang and his friends embarking on a new adventure. We're going on an adventure! The movie comes courtesy of Nickelodeon Animation, not surprisingly, Paramount Animation, and Avatar Studios. The recently formed company co-led by Last Avatar creators Michael DiMartino and Brian Konietzko. Next up.
Kaiju number 8 will be making its official anime adaptation debut sometime in the near future, but the series has gotten a cool live-action makeover with a special new promo for the series. So let's see here. Right, so you can watch this on YouTube.
Mm-hmm. Which I've seen some stuff. Like, I know that new Gundam series put out a whole prelude episode on YouTube, but it's also on Crunchyroll too. So which actually, I need to start watching that. Berserk's original anime reveals Netflix release date. So the first Berserk anime arrived on the small screen back in 1997, 8 years following the manga's premiere in the pages of Young Animal, not to be confused with the DC imprint. which I don't think is still around anymore now that I think about it. But mostly taking the opportunity to cover the quote Golden Age arc, aka the story of how Guts came to join the Band of Hawks, and all that goodness. You Berserk people probably know all this. I've never seen it. The Berserk's original anime series will arrive on Netflix on December 1st, with all 25 episodes set to be available on the streaming service. The first television series ended on quite the cliffhanger, with the anime adaptation somewhat being used as a vehicle to help in pushing the manga as the viewers might want to see where Guts and company end up following the devastating events of the eclipse. So, and it does say here that there's not a new Berserk anime adaptation confirmed, but apparently there is a countdown clock that appeared on the franchise's official website, leaving fans to wonder if a new project will be announced in around 28 days of this. Well, according to this article, which was about a week old. So shave about a week off of that. We'll see. Next up.
So this year's Macy's Thanksgiving Day Parade will feature the return of the Super Saiyajin Blue Goku balloon as part of the Macy's Thanksgiving Day Parade. And Toei Animation has confirmed that the balloon will loom large again in helping to celebrate Thanksgiving this year. So that'll be later next week.
Mm-hmm.
Next Thursday, to be precise.
Exactly. My Hero Academia season 6 kicks off new Izuku, and Bakugo tag team.
Izuku,
sorry. I don't know. I have not watched it.
Oh, damn it.
So, Midori. Okay, Midoriya. Gotcha. Anywho, so yeah, those two characters are going to tag team against Tamura Shigaraki. Let's see. While the heroes initially gotten the jump on the Paranormal Liberation Front and not the Liberation Paranormal Front, which that's an old Monty Python reference. Anyway, when they kicked off their raid in the first episodes of the season, things quickly turned for the worse when Shigaraki was awakened and revealed that he took on much of All For One's former powers. I won't go much farther, just in case people need to catch up. I won't remember this whenever I watch it, so I'm good. So yeah, basically, yeah, there's a fight going on. Thank you, Benji. That's nice of you. I need to put some more stuff on that channel. Benji Games 2 said it followed my YouTube channel. Next up, though.
Next up, One Piece hypes Jinbei with his first Straw Hat win. Okay. So this is an anime that I am intimidated I'm just intimidated by the sheer length of this anime, and I hesitate to jump in. I wanted to give everyone a quick note that I actually sped through Trigun over the last couple of weeks. So I have now crossed off Trigun off of my list of anime. And it was enjoyable. It definitely has a weird twist towards the end. So getting back to the story, One Piece has been showing off how Jinbei gels with the rest of the Straw Hat crew as they fight their way across Onigashima. And the newest episode of the anime showed off Jinbei's first real victory as a member of the crew in style. Okay.
Yeah. Of note, Agent 70 did not bother with Johnny Young Bosch's dub of Vash the Stampede and crew in his watching.
It's Vash the Stampede. No, but in all seriousness, there is one last thing. I think there is a movie.
Yes.
That is stream. I think it's available on Hulu. So I'm going to try to watch that probably over the weekend, and then jump in. I'm kind of in between anime series. So I think I'm going to watch that movie just to kind of wrap up any Trigun stuff and figure out what's next.
Until the next Trigun series comes, which is not too far from now, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah,
I think right. But my understanding is that's like a reimagining.
It is, yes. which I'm not sure
Yeah,
how to feel
so
about
I would rather that it be a continuation, but this anime is literally almost 20 years old.
Yeah.
So it's a bit, hard to ask for something, for like an actual continuation. It does make sense that they might reboot it for a new audience. But yeah, I guess I'll try to watch some Ghibli stuff and this Trigun movie. But anyway, moving on.
Yeah, the movie's not bad. Bleach, 1,000-Year Blood War Episode 6 will feature animation all-stars. So the news went live when this article went live on Bleach's website in Japan, who revealed details about the episode 6 crew, It turns out that Studio Pierrot brought on some industry legends to do the animation, and it begins with director Hiroyuki Yamashita. So let's see. Yamashita's been in the industry for decades. Some of y'all out there probably know who he is. The artist did key animation for Naruto Shippuden, both on television and film. Also worked on Boruto, the Boruto movie, and also I don't care about Boruto. And there's some other people, including Kyukawa, Tomoka Hayashi, Daisuke Sumigari, Kenji Imazumi, and Yu Natsuki. When episode 6, they all are involved with that episode. I've heard some things about the Blood War, and I'm kind of looking forward to catching up. This article goes into what that episode is probably going to be about, but I won't. Next up.
Okay, so this is, this is the manga corner. So I'm going to play a quickie transition. And because we are currently keeping up with the earlier tales of Spy X Family, this includes some spoilers for future storylines. Spy X Family adds a major twist to Anya's current hostage situation in the manga. So apparently, Anya Forger has found herself caught in a major hostage crisis, and the newest chapter of the manga series has introduced a surprising wrinkle to the situation following an intense cliffhanger from the previous chapter. Okay, so for anyone keeping up with it, enjoy it, but a lot of us are just getting into the anime and have not yet picked up on the manga, which is currently up to chapter 71.
Yeah, and some of us are actually staying away from the manga because we just want to enjoy the anime. So, and not to be spoiled on what happens that has already happened in the manga. But that being said, I think both of us can safely say that we are caught up on Spy X Family and Chainsaw Man, because I think that's the one thing we've been both watching separately.
Right. I've been watching My Hero, but I'm up to date on the manga in My Hero, so I know what's going to happen. And in this case, I'm actually interested to see how this incredible action is going to be portrayed in the animation. And I've not been disappointed. I've been very, very impressed at how they have portrayed some of the action sequences in the manga in the anime adaptation.
Yeah, and Chainsaw Man's kind of bonkers, and I like it.
It's insane, folks.
Oh boy. All right, we're going to transition again, because that's the only manga thing we have, to the comic book corner news. DC teases the return of the next Dr. Manhattan, The Watchmen. So this is spoiler for the new Golden Age #1, which is on sale, which came out last week or something. I don't know. The new Golden Age not only launches new titles for the Justice Society of America and Stargirl. Oh, and there's the Stargirl book that came out this week also. But teases the return of DC's new Dr. Manhattan from Doomsday Clock, The Watchmen. Written by Jeff Johns and illustrated by various artists for a moment. The one-shot visits the Watchmen universe, as well as the home of the Doomsday Clock's mime and marionette. The two villains are seen raising their newborn baby. The crib's mobile's letters above her almost spelling out the word Watchmen. After a glimpse of nostalgia and Babastis. Outside Ozymandias' base in Antarctica, a panel shows the forehead of Clark Drayberg as he talks with his adopted sister Sally, saying the people are after them and that, quote unquote, it's our generation's turn now. I don't know what any of that means because I have not been keeping up with any of that mess. Next up.
All right, so we've got a preview of Flash number 7, The Flash number 788, which is actually out this week. And just to give you a quick idea of what happened in this issue, former Iron Heights Penitentiary warden Gregory Wolf is seen settling into his role as Central City's new mayor. And the preview shows Wolf basically deputizing members of the Flash Rogues Gallery, Captain Cold, Heatwave, Mirror Master, Weather Wizard, and the Trickster, their freedom so long as they work for Wolf as deputized servants of Central City. Hello, Thunderbolts.
Also, as
Suicide Squad.
Well, there is that also, but also just reminding me, it's like, wow, didn't they just do this in Devil's Reign? The competition just did this in Devil's Reign.
Yep, pretty much.
So, next up, though, there we go. DCU's Flash may have seriously jeopardized his secret identity. This is spoilers for the Flash's Man Alive number 3, which is I think it probably came out last week. Also, it's the book basically centered around the DCU Flash, the one we don't care about. It's written by Kenny Porter and illustrated by Jason Howard, and it's the final issue of the 3-part prequel comic set before DC Studios' upcoming The Flash movie. It goes into what the issue is about, but I will not. So, but basically it sounds like he basically put his secret identity out that somebody else can find. Sounds like it could easily come out and find, but it's whatever. People are going to find out anyway. Next up.
Alrighty. The latest superhero to join Teen Justice in the pages of Multiversity Teen Justice number 6 on sale now from DC Comics. So these are spoilers. The latest superhero is a female variant of Guy Gardner. Gotta love it, folks. Named Gigi.
Which reminds me of a episode of Leverage I just saw, but nevertheless.
Is that good?
Leverage is pretty good. I enjoy it. Yeah. I enjoy it.
Okay. It's kind of I haven't heard much about it, so I'm gonna look it up.
Yeah, it's kind of campy. But that's or it gets kind of campy at times, but yeah, I enjoy it. You can see Hawkman in there if you so care. But anywho, Multiverses Season 2 adding Marvin the Martian, new Game of Thrones map, and then some other stuff. By the way, and apparently Marvin the Martian is going to have his Illudium Clue 36 explosive space modulator with him. So, as I said on Twitter, I might have to try this game out just for that. Outside of that, yeah, it's a Game of Thrones map and some stuff with the Battle Pass and other blah 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 yakety smackety with that game. Next up.
So, Back to the Future stars Michael J. Fox and Christopher Lloyd are dropping a new line of a new clothing line inspired by their timeless sci-fi classic, Back to the Future, which was released in 1985. Folks.
Oh, I'm too old for this shit.
So, Christopher Lloyd announced the Back to the Future inspired clothing line on his Twitter account while it lasts, posting a photo of himself and Fox embracing while both wearing shirts inspired by the movie. Let's see. The clothes were designed by Lloyd and Fox.
Yeah.
So you can see. Oh, so they also teased it on. They also teased the clothing on their Instagram pages a few days before the release. I'm looking to see if there's any more information. I guess, just stay tuned to their social media and you'll find out more.
Yep. It was a nice picture of them two together. The upcoming miniature skirmish game, Star Wars Shatterpoint, will allow you to create Dream team-ups. So Star Wars is getting a new miniatures game from Asmodee and Atomic Mass Games. the aforementioned Star Wars Shatterpoint. It's going to be released in June 2023. The article goes into what you will be doing in this game. If you have played a miniatures game, you probably already kind of have some sort of an idea. I have not. But yeah, apparently Ahsoka and Darth Maul and Ventress and Anakin and Bo-Katan, and you can kind of make matchups all willy and nilly. So cool. Next up.
All right, Black Panther: Wakanda Forever. The movie gets a custom Xbox Series X. So in celebration of the release of the movie, there is they had a limited Xbox X custom package, like a Xbox X decorated with a custom decoration to help celebrate the release of Black Panther: Wakanda Forever, and it was a giveaway. I think you're still able to enter now.
Yes, it ends on the 1st of December, so you still got time to enter.
Good luck, folks.
Yep. So if you're a gamer, you're probably already following the Xbox Twitter account for as long as Twitter's going to be around. So, get in while you can.
Right. That joke is going to stay with us at least through the weekend.
Yes, indeed. Next up, though, new Marvel Legends 5-pack is loaded with obscure X-Men characters. And I'd say, yeah, that's accurate. So this first revealed at the recent PulseCon 2022 and MCM London Comics Con events. The figures in the box set include Random, Strife, Vertigo, Reaver Pretty Boy, the Reaver called Pretty Boy, and Zero. So strange contemplation, according to this article, to be sure. And they expect that many collectors will buy it for a couple of figures and sell off the rest. Yep, that sounds about right.
I mean, if you are a real X fan and you're looking to complete certain teams and lineups, then there are some, important characters here, because they have been putting out members of the Reavers slowly but surely. Bonebreaker was a Build-A-Figure recently. So you definitely need a Pretty Boy to help complete the set of Reavers, which we already have. We already have Lady Deathstrike. We have the guy with the skull. If you get more of him, you can get Cole. You can basically build Cole, Macon, and Reese. Bonebreaker is a Build-A-Figure, and you need Pretty Boy. Oh, Skullbuster, I think his name was. So, but yeah, you definitely need Pretty Boy. And if you're looking to build Marauders, like the OG Marauders, you definitely want Vertigo.
Sure.
We're still short a number of members of the Marauders, but she's definitely a figure that you want to add. And you know what? If you're looking to build something with Cable, around Executioner Song, you want to get that Strife.
Yeah, sure. What he said. Next up. Oh wait, $124.99 for the set with a release date of April to June 2023. If you are so interested.
Yep.
Next up.
So a fan favorite Ghost Rider set to return in a new Marvel series. So Polygon announced Cosmic Ghost Rider, a new series from writer Stephanie Phillips and artist Juan Cabal, which features Frank Castle's twisted spirit of vengeance from an alternate timeline that has not only the powers of Ghost Rider, but also the power cosmic. So interesting that this character is making a return, but it makes sense. The character definitely had some popularity when he was introduced.
Yeah, sure.
He was in a lot of places for a while.
Mm-hmm. You're right. Yeah, you're right. Sure. You know what? I'm gonna skip this next one because we already talked about Gold Goblin #1. So, discovered the magic of Wanda Maximoff in the Scarlet Witch #1 trailer. I saw this trailer. It was actually pretty good. For a trailer for a comic book, which still gets me. So, written by Steve Orlando and drawn by artist Sarah Pichelli. Scarlet Witch will find Wanda embracing a new heroic journey to help those in need and who need her the most. Excuse me. What's going on? To do so, she will use her unmatched magical abilities to conjure up an enchanted door that appears only to those who have no one else in the world to turn to. As the trailer said, if your need is great and your hope is gone, there you will meet the Scarlet Witch. So, the trailer is attached to this article if you want to go check it out for yourself. But yeah, there's it also showcases a few people that's going to show up in the book. One or two, one definitely not a surprise. The other two, maybe one of them might be kind of a surprise. Maybe actually both of them might be kind of a surprise. So yeah. Next up. Oh wait, sorry. Scarlet Witch number 1 will hit the stands on January the 4th. Next up.
So I love how early we get these announcements from the Free Comic Book Day Committee. They have revealed the 13 gold sponsor comic book titles, and this is well in advance of Free Comic Book Day coming up next year on May 6th, 2023. So there are going to be 13 gold sponsor titles from some of the industry's top publishers, including Aftershock Comics, Archie Comics, Boom Studios, Dark Horse Comics, Dynamite Entertainment Graphics, IDW Publishing, Image Comics, Kodansha Comics, Marvel Comics, Titan Comics, and Viz Media. So this article contains the actual titles and the cover art. So I'm not going to go through all of them, but it's always interesting to see what these companies are choosing to promote on Free Comic Book Day.
Yeah, but if you are watching the video version, you just saw me scrolling through them to where you can see them for yourselves. Yeah. Last story for the night. James Tynion IV heading up Dark Horse's latest creator-owned imprint. So, let's see, James Tynion IV is making a move to Dark Horse to be the new home of his latest work. After leaving his exclusive, I was wondering about that, his exclusive contract with DC Comics to put out new material on the newsletter service Substack, Tynion is releasing both new and old work under his new line of comics. See, he announced last year that he would be leaving his exclusive contract to focus on creative form work, most of which is on Substack, excuse me, and it gives the names of the stuff that he put out there. And does this imprint have a name? Don't see. Oh, the Tiny Onion Studios, I guess that looks like. Is this what it is? So, okay, yeah, there you go. That's good for him, I guess. Hey, shout out to creator-owned stuff. And that, folks, is
absolutely,
yeah. And that, folks, is the end of the news. You got one more ad read for me?
Our last ad read of the night, folks, for you and for me, is Wink, our personalized wine club. Wink is a world of wine delivered right to your door. From rosé to Cabernet to Torronté, Wink has over 100 styles of wine to discover. Ever try an orange wine? Wink connects you to a world of exclusive wines tailored to your tastes and delivered directly to your door. Wink delivers 4 bottles of wine to you every month with free shipping. You can pick your own bottles or let Wink choose and match to your taste. It doesn't cost a thing to become a member, and you can skip or cancel anytime. And now the listeners of the Comic Book Chronicles can enjoy an exclusive discount of $20 off your first order. To place your first order with $20 off and to help keep our show free for you, go to our network website at cspn.us/wink. That's cspn.us/WINC. Wink Wines through CSPN. Do it today.
Alrighty, folks. Boop. We have come to the end of another show. Again, friendly reminder, next week it's Thanksgiving here in the US of A. We will not be recording on Thursday night. more likely it'll be like Friday or Saturday, but stay tuned to if Twitter's still around. If Twitter's still around, stay tuned to Twitter or Instagram or somewhere.
We can't help it, folks. It's like it's a running joke throughout the internet.
Yeah, really, it's just all too crazy these days and times. But regardless, our social medias, such as they are out there and will be out there.
Yeah,
those that remain.
Watch out. We may be posting it to like our Instagram stories, so you never know. Just get out there and check those out. So Roddykat's going to go through the plugs.
Yes, you can find myself, Roddykat, on Twitter at Roddykat for the time being. You can also find me at News Nerds Need on Twitter. You can also find me at CB Caps on Instagram. You can also find me at Roddykat on Instagram on Agent_70 on Twitter for the time being, and Instagram also.
Definitely still on Instagram.
PC_Dirt on Twitter, PopCultureNet on Twitter, PopCultureNetwork.com is on the umbrella sites they're in. And Tim, DOGG98 on Twitter, CB Cron on Twitter for the time being. The Kliq Nation also on Twitter. That's TheKliqNation, all one word. But you can also find Tim at comicbook.com under the name Timothy Adams, where he's over there writing his face off. Go click that man's works, read his stuff. He does some good stuff. We're not just saying that because he's associated with us. So, there you go. There's the approval bell right there. You can also find this podcast on your podcast provider place of choice, whether it be Google Play, Apple iTunes, aka Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or the Coastal Lizard Podcast Network's SoundCloud page. And a slight bit of reversal because I skipped over it. You can find this here podcast on the Coastal Lizard Podcast Network. That's cspn.us.
Do it today.
And of course, normally you can find us recording every Thursday night, 9:30-ish p.m. on youtube.com/TheKliqNation and twitch.tv/Comic Book Chronicles. So yeah, we will definitely see you next week, just not on Thursday. Like I said, stay tuned. We'll put that out there somewhere.
Yes, have a happy Thanksgiving, folks.
Yes, eat some turkey.
Remember to be thankful. Yeah, remember to be thankful for what you have. Remember the people who don't have as much as you do in the coming holiday season. And like I said, just be thankful for the loved ones and your health and all the important things.
Right. And if you're in a place else that doesn't celebrate Thanksgiving, hey, you know what? Have a good big plate of food anyway, and have and also still continue to be thankful.
Yep.
This has been the Comic Book Chronicles. Peace.
Peace. One right arm over left. Wakanda forever.